Hi, I'm Kit Cassingham with Live in Focused Energy. I'm a longevity coach, and you are sitting in today on the conversations that Alex and I have about various aspects of life. Me from longevity and her from I, I don't you have so many interesting ways of talking about what you do, Alex. I'm going to say hustling and relaxing and working too much and not working enough. What do you do?
So I'm a certified high performance and mindset coach. And what I really focus on is the idea of the anti hustle, because I believe that is a real detriment to not just society today, but to our health, whether it be physical or mental.
I like it. And that fits in with my life so well these days, though it's a different hustle than you're talking about. So as a longevity coach, I also work on mindset. Age is a mindset. And I've learned the best lesson from my great grandmother. She lived to the age of 92 and never acted old. I have made it my mission to live as she did, like she did, simply, slowly, with a lot of heart. And
Mm.
I teach other people how to do that too. You don't have to fear aging. And I can go on and on about that, but I'll leave it for other calls or other times. So, Alex, when you suggested that we talk about the hustle culture,
Mm.
my first reaction was, are we going to talk about the dance? What is it we're talking about? Because I don't think dancing is
Hustle.
what you do. And I don't know how to hustle dance, but as we've talked about it and I've researched it a little more, I've been that much more intrigued because I have my own concepts and biases about what hustle is. I mean, to me, hustle is um, pushing people around, it's moving fast towards something, pushing people that direction, and just go, 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 go. But you may have other concepts.
I think that go, go, go part is definitely an element of hustling. The way I like to look at hustling and the way it resonates with me is wanting to always be on the move, wanting to always be chasing and driving and striving. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to the detriment of our health and our relationships, where we don't rest when we're tired, we get that in that single focus mind of, you know what, I have my 3 year goals and my 5 year goals, and I'm not going to stop until I get there. That's when, for me, the hustle becomes detrimental, because I think about it in the context of people often say, well, we're not robots, assuming that robots don't have to rest. But machines have to rest. They need tune-ups,
Yeah, they do.
turn the engine off from time to time. You need to change the oil. You need to
Throw
do,
the joints.
that's right. You need to do all those things. So even machines need rest. And I think it's incredibly, for lack of a better word that comes to mind right now, it's incredibly arrogant for us to think that we don't need to rest, even when we're chasing our big dream. I think being able to rest is what gives us the stamina to keep going, because that those are the times when we get to slow down, take a breath, reassess. But when you're in that hustle, 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 that's not good.
I agree, and I like that. And what I take from that is when you're so goal and schedule driven that everything else, your life falls away. Relationships, health, peace of mind. It's all about the end game. And
And there's
that doesn't sound healthy.
and
It's not balanced or harmonious.
correct, correct. And it's again, I don't want people to think that I'm not, I don't think that being driven and that striving for our goals is a good thing. I think it's an incredibly good thing. but it stops being a good thing when our health suffers, when our relationships suffer, when we become so tunnel visioned into this one thing that nothing else matters.
Right.
And it makes
Right.
feel like we're out of whack.
I heard a great analogy yesterday in a workshop I went to. A little chocolate is good. Too much isn't so good. And
Yeah.
so hustle is like chocolate. A little is okay, hours at a time, days at a time, but weeks, months, years, not so good.
Yeah.
And I'll also add here that when you hustle too much, that really goes against your WHY.os. Your WHY.os being your why, how, and what. You can't do a good job at that,
Mm.
at those things, at being your best with your why, how, what, if you're hustling, because then the thing you're pursuing is what rules you.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much glorification around this idea of the hustle. You look everywhere on social media, it's you got to hustle, hustle, hustle. And, if you're not hustling, you're not working. If you're not, and for me, it's a misnomer. It's a misnomer is not the right word. It's deceiving or it's misleading because we do have to wind down, take some time, take a breath to make sure that we are continuing on the right path and readjust when we're not. And when you're so focused on that hustle, it's like you lose everything else. It's just you become so tunnel visioned that everything else disappears. And that's not healthy.
I was reminded of I don't know what it properly would be called, but if you're so busy climbing the ladder, if you're not careful, you'll get to the top of the ladder and realize you're on the wrong wall of
Yeah.
you're climbing up. And I think hustle very much applies to that. So we need to slow down and observe what's around us, where we're going, what we're doing. Are we being Sisyphus, pushing that boulder up the hill? Are we climbing the ladder up the wrong wall? Or are we pursuing our passion and dream in a peaceful, reasonable pace, keeping the harmony in our lives?
And I love that idea of harmony because people talk a lot about work-life balance. And while I love the idea of work-life balance, it always implies some kind of a push and pull where something has to give to make room for something else. Whereas harmony means everything is working together. And that's what makes my heart sing, is to know that the different areas of my life are in harmony and not fighting for my attention.
I like that harmony and singing have different notes. It comes and goes and it flows and it can have stops and starts, but they are part of a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our lives are better off when we do that also.
Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt.
So how do you recognize when you're in hustle mode?
um, not always.
Oh, I asked a tough question.
Not always so easy because we get that tunnel vision, right? But there are a few things that for me are easier to recognize if you take a moment to take a breath. And that's really the most critical part. But so one way that you can tell you're in hustle mode is you feel like you're always busy, right? And there's a difference between being busy and being productive. Busy for me has an element of chaos and the element of disjointment that productive doesn't have. When you're productive, you're moving the needle, you're doing the things that matter. You are slowly but surely chipping away at the things you need to in order to do your, to reach your goals. And when you're hustling, you don't relax, you don't pursue your hobbies, you don't spend time with friends and family, or not that you don't spend time with friends and family, maybe necessarily, but maybe you don't spend as much time, or when you're with them, you're not fully present because all you're thinking about is the thing that you should be chasing and you should be working on. So
So it's
that's
not quality time with when you're with friends and family if you're hustling. And as you talk, I think I feel a frenzy.
yeah,
Um, and I get tight to my core when I think of that frenzy. It reminds me of some gurus I have followed who say, "Oh, you've got to do this. Either put in these kinds of hours and efforts, or this is what your day looks like, very carefully scheduled." And when I've tried those things, I've gotten that same tight feeling and conclude that's not for me. I don't mind being busy, but my life needs to flow, partly because I've been an EMT here in the county and I never know when the ambulance page is going to go off. And so if I'm in the middle of something, the page goes off, I can't say, "Oh, I'll get to you in half an hour." When people need you, they need you now. And so I've learned through the years to say, "I'm going to do these things in these hours and I'll take this much break." Um, I get more done and I'm more peaceful and rested. And I like that. And I'm going to guess that's the opposite of hustle.
yeah, completely the opposite of hustle. So so we talked about one way to recognize is that feeling of busyness. Um, there's also understanding and realizing that you've just taken on too much. And because you've taken on so much, you are running and you are hustling. So being able to take a step back and say, wait a minute, what are the right things I should be working on? And being able to just say, you know what, this is what I'm going to focus on. And the rest is going to be either for later, delegated, or forgotten. But taking on too much is always going to give us that feeling of hustling.
So between the stimulus and the action, there is a pause.
There
And we
needs,
need to take that pause and use it
yeah,
to think, to breathe, to connect,
mm,
and then take action. Okay.
absolutely. If things change all the time, right? Things are fluid. Even our goals sometimes change, or how we get to our goals changes. And if we're so down that rabbit hole that we don't see that maybe going this way instead of going that way, which is what we had planned, can actually get us there faster because of things we've
And
learned.
better.
Exactly. Then we miss an opportunity to reach the goal quicker and maybe less frenzied. So that break
Yeah.
is critical.
Yeah. Oh, that gives me a nice breath of fresh air to think about. I guess
And
that's what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. Not only that, but when we're in a constant state of stress and anxiety, that's a sure sign that we're in hustle mode. And like you talked about before, it's okay to hustle for a short period of time because we have a major presentation, because we have to prepare I don't know, an expo at, in a local city, or there are moments where we're going to have to just say, okay, you know what, for the next week or two, this is going to be my life. You share that with the people that you love so that they know that this is what you're going to be doing so they don't feel completely left out. And you go to town, and that's okay. But you have to come back from that, and you have to
Don't
take
forget.
take time to reconnect with the family, take time to do the things that make you come alive and that feed your soul, because hustling is soul sucking, frankly.
Oh, yeah. Well, Alex, as you talk again, I'm thinking about my college years where we're kind of expected to hustle and my early career. I didn't like getting to the last week before the project was due, hustling to finish the research and get it typed and or written and typed. Um, I planned far enough ahead that I had it done, finished, typed, ready to go days before the deadline. So I never had to push and hustle, because that hustle short circuits my brain, and I don't write as clearly because I'm not thinking as clearly. I'm not eating as well. And I know that's all what you're talking about, but so I'm saying I don't even want to take that week or two before the big event to hustle it. I want to take several weeks and let it flow and do its thing, because my creativity flourishes more, which is part of my WHY.os. Now, creativity isn't one of the 9 whys. Mine is a contribution. I contribute better when I'm more relaxed and allow my creativity to blossom and flourish. And then my mastery and my and which is my what, and my curiosity kick in and help the me serve people. So I wonder if when we hustle, we're not, again, I said earlier, I think we're denying our WHY.os. And I've just come up with an example for me of I am denying it. I'm shoving it down so that I can hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. It hinders our creative abilities. I liken it to this. When you're fighting a fire, there's nothing that should have your attention but
But the
fighting,
fire.
right? Everything
And
else
that's
is,
true with EMT. If you're
yeah,
taking care of a patient, don't
exactly.
get distracted by the TV show.
Yeah, exactly. But in most of our day-to-day life, whether it's in our work, in our playtime, with our family, most people, I would assume, like to be creative, like to be innovative, like to kind of push the boundaries a little bit and explore different things. When you're in hustle mode, you can kiss that goodbye, because you're focused on that one thing, again, at the detriment of everything else. So you don't have time to be creative, to be innovative.
Yeah. And I think when you're in that mode, it detracts from gracious aging, if I can put it that way. Gracious aging being slow and steady, um, making good life decisions so that you eat well, move frequently, sleep well, have community that you're connected to.
Hmm.
Those, I think, are the 4 top elements of graceful aging. And when I say aging, I don't necessarily mean living to a certain length of time, but with quality, however long you're intended to live.
Hmm.
And I think when you live intentionally, then you're making your life decisions are such that it supports a longer, healthier, more vibrant life. And that says to me, you ain't hustling, baby. You're you are, I don't know what dance move would equate to what I want to say. You're not
I
doing the monkey, you're not hustling.
don't know.
Yeah. And we'll have to bone up on our dance moves
Well,
to finish this
definitely,
analogy.
definitely. And I think the last thing that I want to mention about how to recognize, actually, 2 things to how to recognize that we're in hustle mode. If I think about my days in corporate, every Sunday night, I would get my Sunday headaches. Just at the
Oh,
of going back to work on Monday, I would, it wasn't even Sunday night, it was most of the day Sunday. I would be resting because I would have a headache. If that's happening, then that's a sure sign that you're in hustle mode and you need to take a break. And the
pain
last,
is definitely a signal. Yeah.
yeah, no doubt. And then the last thing I would just say is if you're just trudging through and you're not experiencing joy in the work that you're doing, if it's not fulfilling you, if it's, you don't approach it with a lightness of spirit and in a way that it feeds your soul, then you're definitely in hustle mode.
Yeah. And I like the you've brought in joy, because that is another component of longevity in my book. You've got to love everything you're doing. Otherwise, what's the point?
Mhm. No, it's true. I mean, we're only here for a short amount of time, and the objective is not to be here and be miserable. The objective, at least not not in my view, the objective is to be here to have fun, to learn, to grow, to connect with people, to do all of these things. And it's more than just hustling to reach our goals and, to make a
Yeah.
vision. There are healthier ways to do that.
So you don't want to talk about the suffer mode then?
I don't want to talk about the what mode.
The suffer mode. That
No.
if you're doing all that stuff and end the week with a headache, that's suffering.
Yeah. No, been there, done that. Got multiple t-shirts. I'm good.
Eh, okay, if that's how you want it.
So,
So what else do you have to share? I mean, I brought up some definitions of hustle
yeah.
just for my curiosity. Um,
Yeah.
like to urge forward precipitous, precipitally. Um, like if it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium. If I don't know if you've heard of that movie, but that's hustling people from one spot to another, and your schedule and location have to click.
Mm,
Um, so when it's noon, we've got to be at the museum now.
okay.
Okay, now it's time to stop for ice cream. Oh, got to go to the next museum. That's also hustling, which is another way of looking at what you're talking about. Hustle doesn't have to be work related.
No, no. It just has to carry that sense of being hurried, harried, frenzied, forced to, or feel like we're forced to get to a certain destination within a constricted amount of time.
With a lot of energy. Because one
Yeah.
of the definitions here is to obtain by energetic activity. It's like that describes it pretty well.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, this definition talks about selling or promoting energetically and aggressively, or luring less skillful players into competing against you. Eh, Those, to me, are not the pleasant parts of business or life.
For sure. I agree. I agree with that. And the thing is, like, there are a lot of consequences to, or negative consequences to hustling. I think we have ep- uh, an epidemic. Is that what I said? Is that the word? Like an epidemic
Oh, you broke
of
up there.
burnout? Do we have an epidemic of burnout? Is that how you say it?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yep. Epidemic.
Okay. So that's a sure sign, and that's a consequences of always being on the go. How many women do you know who are exhausted, who are overwhelmed, who lack fulfillment in the work that they do, who feel like what they're doing is meaningless, right? And why? Because they don't put up boundaries.
Hmm.
They put themselves last. They disconnect from their feelings and from what their
Their
bodies
soul.
are telling them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I talked a little bit about tunnel vision before, but, they get tunnel vision. So when you look at hustling, I personally can't find anything good in it.
You're convincing me there's nothing good in it. Yeah. So why do you think this is so popular? And I'll back off that question and say I just saw a discussion on Facebook yesterday that was talking about essentially about hustle, how we work so hard and don't take breaks, and somebody equated it to um, the American culture got like this because of the Industrial Revolution. But I believe in Europe, they do take breaks. They take the government holidays, the country's holidays, and religious holidays. They they treat them with respect.
There
And
is
they experienced the Industrial Revolution.
exactly, and like there's siesta time in Spain, right? The
Yes,
French
there
take
is.
the French
And
take
France.
long lunches because they understand that there is a need to disconnect. And
Yeah.
America, I feel, often like snicker at that and be like, oh, look at them, taking a 2 hour break when they could be working at their, eating lunch at their desk and continuing to keep going. But there is value in taking
There
those
is.
breaks, in giving yourself a chance to connect with other people, in giving your brain a chance to just,
And
simmer.
countries around the world do that. And so it's not community just evenings and weekends. It's
No.
community morning, noon, night
Yeah.
throughout the week and weekend, almost as if week and weekend blur into each other.
Yeah.
I aspire for more people to do that. I've been scolded by many a friend saying, you work too much. You should work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And my reaction is, it works for us to work and play every day. I
Yeah.
couldn't be taking this 3 hour lunch with you today if I subscribe to your philosophy. I couldn't travel. And I like the way Randy and I live with, and he gets up later than I do and goes to bed later. And so we really each flow in our own pattern, but we make sure our flow involves each other at some point during the day.
And, I think that what you just mentioned is the critical piece, is that we all have to do what is right for us. And what works
Yeah.
for one doesn't necessarily work for the other. So I'm sure there are some people for whom hustling works, whether it's age related, the fact that they're single, the fact that, I don't know, the sky is blue, the water's green. I don't know. There are, for some people, I fully recognize that the hustle works and they're okay. But when I look at the number of women who are burnt out, stressed, exhausted, overwhelmed,
Yeah.
it doesn't work for everyone. And we have to be willing to say, you know what? This is not for me. I have to find my way and then have that, take that journey to, okay, what does hustling in a healthy way look like for me? For you, it's weaving work and play at the same time throughout the day. For me, it's being able to disconnect on a Sunday afternoon and just read a book. Whatever that looks like, it's not because the gurus and all the people out there say, this is what you got to do, that this is what you got to do. Do what works for you.
But isn't that the definition of not hustle?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Just want to be clear there. So really, and now I'm not going to be as kind and gentle as you are. I don't think hustling is good for anyone. I think they may not experience it and show it today, but somewhere down the road, their body's going to kick them
yep.
in the backside. I have a friend who's very proud of the fact he only needs 3, maybe 4 hours of sleep a night.
Okay.
And every time I read a book, hear a lecture, whatever, about the value of sleep and all that it does for us,
Mhm.
I call and say, oh, you really need to sleep. Okay, you don't understand. Every so often I crash and burn and sleep for 24 hours. You go, okay, so you did need the sleep and just ignored it. And
Exactly.
this person's also starting to experience a variety of health issues
Mhm.
that are related to lack of sleep. And I would say that hustlers will or do experience health issues, be it diabetes, obesity, any number of health issues. So I'm going to just say it flat, quit hustling, plan, get your work done, and weave life and work together for harmony, if nothing else. And every tune can be different. So your harmony and my harmony are very different. Is yours a Sousa band and mine's a Dreamboat band? I mean, who knows? No, I don't think you're a Sousa band. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is, but I'm okay with whatever it is. Okay.
It's a marching. Sousa did the marching tunes.
Okay.
Anyway,
That. See, you learn something new every day.
some of it's even useful.
Sometimes. Uh, so you were asking me before, why do people hustle? Right?
And you
And
tried to answer me, and I won't let you.
no, it's okay. I think a couple of reasons. One, sometimes there's a huge sense of obligation. We have a family that we need to clothe,
Okay. House, feed. Yeah.
all of that good stuff. And there is a sense that if we don't hustle, we won't be seen as valuable to the company that we work for. And therefore, that
Contributing.
in jeopardy, right? Because I know companies who expect you to be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, vacation, you're on.
Come hell or high water.
Come hell or high water, and putting boundaries up in those types of situations can be a little bit tricky. So I think there's a sense of obligation and like a sense, almost like a sense of duty, right? That
Yes. Obligation. Yeah. Duty. Yeah.
so I
I knew a guy. I knew a guy many years ago who worked in the company where I worked, who'd been off mountain biking and fell and just damn it, he really whacked his head, was in the hospital overnight or something, and came back to work and worked 2 days straight
ooh,
and then collapsed.
yeah,
And the work he did had to be totally redone. It was absolutely worthless. But he got gold stars for being there.
yeah, yeah.
So, and I
That,
interrupted you. You were saying something.
that's why people go to work when they're sick, right? Rather than take
Yes. Oh,
to get better and to rest. God forbid you appear like, you're weak because you've gotten sick. So you just, you know,
tough it
what's
up.
thank you. And and you go to work anyways, right? And I think that's part of that whole
Good,
hustle obligation kind of thing.
good connection. Yes, I see that way too often, which is part of the reason COVID spread so far, fast and far, because people either some of us were not aware that we're sick, either maybe because our energy is so low anyway that what's a little lower. But it's also I can't afford to not go because of my reputation, my salary,
Mhm.
whatever. And so then everybody gets sick and the world kind of comes to a screeching halt.
And
Which,
and another reason I think is going back to what I was saying earlier about the glorification of the hustle. There's a perception that this is how you get to be successful because
yeah,
those are the success stories maybe that are visible. We might not see as much people who are successful who have that harmony in their life, or at least they don't boast about it. They don't talk about it because they're not out there with their badge of honor saying, hey, I only need 4 hours of sleep and I'm good to go for, the next 96 hours or whatever. So what we hear and what society or what we think it should be or how we think it should be is hustling. And it doesn't, again, I know I've said it and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it again before we're done. It doesn't have to be
okay,
that.
good.
It doesn't have to be that way.
It shouldn't be that way. Yeah. I
Absolutely.
think we're all happier, healthier, more balanced people, and balanced in the sense of we've got our feet on the ground and are stable, and we
Ground,
can't get pushed off center very easily. That kind of balance, not the push pull, but
more grounded.
yeah,
We have
yeah, grounded.
foundation, thick roots that keep us from being battered around.
And doesn't it feel good to think about being grounded, centered, and not at the whim of all the people and things that tell us what we should do. If we followed all the advice of what we should do,
Be going around in circles.
yeah,
Because everybody,
and we'd be so beat up.
yeah, yeah. And when we do that, when we follow other people's opinions, it's because we're not sure how
Mm,
to proceed, because either we haven't taken the time to think it through, or we're not sure what we want, or we don't have a plan of action, whatever the case may be, but we're not grounded in our own knowledge. Therefore, everybody's opinion makes it in, and then we spin like a top.
and I love the way Cesar Millan talked about it regarding relationship with dogs. You need rules, boundaries, and limitations. And we all do. I need to know how far I can be pushed, guided, how far I can go. Um, I need to know how I will allow the world to treat me. And when I know those things, then I'm not as subjected to everybody else's opinions of how I should hustle or not
Absolutely.
hustle.
Yeah, or not hustle. And let's be honest, right? A manager is never going to come to an employee and say, you know what, you worked really hard this week. Why don't you take a couple of days off? No, it's up to us to say,
They're,
you know what, I
yeah.
worked really hard the last 3 months. I'm going to take a week's vacation and I'm going to completely disconnect.
Ooh,
And,
what? How will I ask you this question?
and again, and I'm not saying it's easy, right? Because
Yes.
I was in a
Right.
situation before where I didn't always feel comfortable saying that I would completely disconnect because I had nobody to back me up. So I never felt like it was easier for me to connect while on vacation than it was to completely disconnect and have to deal with whatever was there when I came home.
Yeah.
So I get it.
And, and you know what? E- Even if I don't work hard for 3 months and take a week off,
Mm,
it's still, when I take that week vacation, it still is a benefit to me to unplug.
yeah.
So even if I have done that weaving of work and play for that 3 months where you were working really hard, chances are we got about the same amount done. Our business cultures made us feel that we were the level of creativity we were,
Mm,
but we still need a break.
yeah,
And unplugging is real important.
absolutely. Absolutely. So
Well,
so how have you established that harmony in your life?
some of it is by working and playing every day.
Okay.
And playing for me includes my self-care. So
Okay.
taking a walk, doing my stretches, which by the way, I've not been doing very well lately.
Yeah, but you've
Um,
been busy, huh?
I have been busy. Um, and that's why I love this topic. My hustle is I do have an end game.
Mm,
So we are leaving this house in 2 weeks. We've lived here 20 years and we brought our 20 years of collection with us. So now we have a 40-year collection. I don't know. But I have 2 weeks to do 6 months worth of work. It'll get done. I have goals with if I declutter one drawer or closet, part of a closet a day, a shelf or something, I'll make it. And
okay.
I'm giving a lot of stuff away. I invite my friends in to come shop. Um, come on over and shop. Um, but it is making sure to have variety in my life. That's part of how I get harmony. And my husband and I have different kinds of harmony needs. So, for example, this spring, I walked in Italy. That was a good, harmonious activity, even though it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I was
Sure.
exhausted. Um, it's taking a break and going to dinner at our favorite restaurant. I went to the drive-in Sunday. and watch the double feature.
I haven't
And we'll
been to
talk about
those.
you. You're so missing out. And these two particular movies were the drive-in owners asked me what I thought of them. On the surface, they were as different as night and day, but I said they were both very empowering and motivating.
Hmm.
One was about a young man who was born with a physical disability that the doctor said you'll never work. And he was a top-notch baseball player, overcoming a lot of pain and issues just by sheer determination and practice. He could hit a ball 400 yards, evidently, with a stick. That was a rock with a stick. But then the other one was about sex trafficking
Hmm.
and how an agent was so disturbed by what he saw in one of his raids that he decided to go find the children who'd been taken and bring them home. Yeah, he quotes only got 120 or something. The fact he got one is exhilarating.
Hmm.
So you can see there one's a horrific story and one's really sad and uplifting. But the horrific story had an uplift to me that made me really glad I stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning to watch it. And
Okay.
that created harmony in my life. I knew it was a dark movie in some aspects. Who wants to watch about child sex trafficking? But if you don't watch it and pay attention to it, you've it's too easy to turn a blind eye to it. And to me, that lacks harmony. And that in some ways puts me in the hustle category. If I'm too busy to pay attention to that. So it feels like I've taken us way off path with this answer, but drive-in movies are a good way to relax.
So, would you say that being congruent is a way to achieve harmony in your life?
Yes,
Okay.
if you know your values and live to with them, stay on that path, congruent. Yes,
Okay.
and that's a lot of what knowing your WHY.os is about.
Mm,
That helps you understand your path and your values, just so you can stay congruent.
yeah. No,
Yeah, good question.
that makes complete sense.
Yeah. So go see those movies, drive in or not.
You'll have to give me the titles later.
And the audience can ask in their comments, what are those movies?
I know one of them. I couldn't figure out what the other one was.
Yeah, one's The Hill, and the other is Sound of Freedom.
Yeah. I remembered the Sound of Freedom. I couldn't remember the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anything else we need to cover on the hustle?
Actually, I think it's important to let people know what are some ways that they can start to get their life back. How can they start getting out of
Of
that hustle
course.
mode so they can start to live a life that is more in harmony, that is joyful, that is meaningful, and that is fulfilling. So I have five different tips that I want to share with everyone. And the first one is, I think it's important from time to time. Go ahead.
No. Number one.
I think it's
Sorry.
important from time to time to take ourselves out of our environment. Because when we're in our everyday environment, we're kind of conditioned to behave in a specific way. So taking ourselves out of that so that we can have a different experience, so that we can connect with people, so that we can just have the ability to just take a breath is a great way to kind of recalibrate and slowly get ourselves out of that hustle mode. The second thing would be asking ourselves what really matters across all of the different aspects of our lives. I think often we just get so tunnel visioned that we go down a particular path and we just keep going because we're just used to it and we're in that mode and we just keep going, going, going. But we don't always stop to say, wait a minute, is this really what's important? Is this really what matters? And if it isn't, or let's say if it is, then great, keep going. But if it isn't, then that's the opportunity to just say, okay, time to take a step back and again, recalibrate and make sure we're doing the things that really, really matter in our life. The third thing I would say is, because we're in that tunnel vision, try to look at life, the bigger picture of life, not just the career, not just, whatever the focus.
Not a slice of life.
Exactly. I mean, you and I know there are like, I think 10 different life arenas that we have. So we have our career, we have our mission, we have finances, hobbies, friends and family, partner, emotional well-being, health, and I don't know, I just to name.
On and on it goes. Yeah.
Right? So being able to look at our life as a whole instead of siloed based on whatever the focus of the moment is another way that you can start to recalibrate and get your life back. Number 4, I would say define your true priorities, right? And then align your efforts to whatever those priorities are. We can be running, but if we know that the thing that we really need to pay attention is over here, then let's course correct. All right, let's figure out what the priorities are so that we pay attention to the right thing. And then the last thing I would say is stop living on autopilot and be intentional. Right?
Be intentional.
Decide how you want to show up, decide who you want to be, and lean into that, live into that, and become this person, because the more we show up with intention, the less likely we are to get caught in the hustle.
Yeah. And knowing your values helps, kind of starts that's the platform you build on.
Absolutely. So that's what I wanted to share. I didn't want to close.
That's good stuff.
I didn't want to close without sharing that. So
good. You should do a workshop on this. You're so passionate about it and know so much about it. Yeah. This would be fun.
Yeah, something to consider, most definitely.
Okay.
Anything you want to add to the list from your point of view?
No, I don't need to add anything because you touched on it all. I might phrase it differently, and I've kind of already said that, of pay attention to your health, what you eat, how you sleep, pay attention to your community, pay attention to even how much you drink, water, that is. Don't drink any more alcohol. I
went to whiskey, but okay, that's good.
So it is the movement, the community, sleep, the diet, and the mental thoughts. Did you know that, I've said that age is a mindset. People who have a positive attitude about age better.
I believe
people with a negative mindset don't age as well. They're the ones who get sicker sooner, die sooner, for the most part. And so working on your mindset, and as you said earlier, put joy in your life. It's critical. Yeah. So,
cool.
So that's all I have to add, and which is just another way of saying what you've already said.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Do you want to close us out?
Yeah. And actually, I'll let you start with that because I think that'll tie everything up for you very nicely.
So, again, I'm Alex Niel, certified high performance and mindset coach, also focused on the anti-hustle. So I do call myself the anti-hustle coach. I just wanted to share with everyone that I will be having a training on Tuesday, September 19th, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard, for about an hour, on how to overcome or how to reduce overwhelm and exhaustion in 30 days. So if you're interested and you'd like to learn more, just connect with me on LinkedIn at under my profile, Alexandra Niel, and I'll be happy to send you an invite.
Why don't I, if there's a link, why don't I put that in the show notes?
I can give you the Calendly link. No problem.
Okay. Okay. That'd be great. And I'm Kit Cassingham, a longevity coach. My age is a mindset. And as my grandmother lived to 92, my great grandmother lived to 92. And in those days, that seems like a really long time. Um, I it's my mission to live as she did and to help others do the same thing because you don't have to fear aging. Embrace it, be engaged with your life. So, and what I'm going to offer people is to do a WHY.os discovery so they can find out what their why, how, and what are and learn to incorporate that into their life as kind of their North Star to put on top of their values and live well. So
Cool.
all
right.
right. Next month's call, which will be on October 11th, my birthday, is personal identity and values.
Nice. Good.
So I think that'll be fun.
It will be fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you don't have anything else, then I will say good day, and I'll see you guys next month.